A group of high school friends gather for an intimate engagement party on a weekend, but their dysfunctional personalities resurface as hours pass. With Deborah, an AI that can tweak time, they'll face chaos they never anticipated. Nora, a bachelorette and the group's close friend, sits dazed on a sofa as voices and vague images flash in her head. Ada, the party host and their friend's fiancé, pleasantly tells her to throw the avocado she's preparing if there are brown spots. The bachelorette dismisses it, saying she can remove the bad parts instead of throwing everything away. Ada stops cooking and approaches Nora to have a proper conversation with her, and the ladies lightheartedly chit-chat about the upcoming wedding. In the background, Deborah, a home AI, announces the arrival of Frank, the future groom's graduate school classmate, Jim, Nora's brother, Chet, the groom's close friend, and Gabby, his girlfriend. Chet mischievously charms Deborah, and the AI plays his game while casually noting his girlfriend's presence. The AI notifies them of the snowy weather as Albert, the future groom and Deborah's inventor, shows off his grilling skills to the men while having drinks with them. He realizes too late that the meat is burned, so he calls Deborah and a rewind sound echoes. Moments later, Albert assists Ada in preparing food, and he jokingly calls her sister, which she doesn't appreciate, so she gently reminds him that she's his fiancée. Simultaneously, Nora, who's talking to Gabby, tells Ava they're getting thirsty, so the host mentions giving them water, but the bachelorette implies she needs liquor. Chet vaguely remarks about her demand, and as Nora clarifies what he means, the man diverts the talk to the slashed lampshade. As the friends banter, Frank and Jim enter. Ava reminds them to remove their shoes since she's very particular about cleanliness. However, as she prepares the wine for the guests, Jim sits close to his sister, making her push him away. Ava drops the wine bottle, and her frustration is visible, making the atmosphere awkward. She turns to her fiancé to ask permission for something, and the couple gets caught up in their world as they discuss the matter, despite Nora's attempts to interject. In the end, Albert agrees but reminds Ava it's the last time. The woman calls Deborah and a beep echoes in the house. The scene when Nora pushes Jim away for personal space repeats, and she comments that she suddenly feels a deja vu moment. Chet jokes that medicines may have triggered Nora, and another banter begins while Ava pours the wine with an anxious expression. Dinner comes and Nora starts a conversation about Ava quitting her job. The future bride stresses that she thinks it's wrong to be an assistant and a fiancé simultaneously, and the couple sweetly holds each other's hands. Due to this, Gabby diverts the talk to get to know Frank. He remarks that his studies are boring and pretentious, but Chet tells him those are their exact situation as a group, so it's alright. Therefore, Frank explains that he's been studying identities, which focuses on race, class, and gender, especially in masculinity, for the last couple of decades. Gabby praises his work, and Chet comments that the idea is intangible. Nora interjects to mock her friend, and as the banter continues, Jim says that Chet may be looking for a man instead. The mischievous friend is offended by this, and the atmosphere turns awkward. Chet blabbers nonsensically, so Gabby whispers to Frank that her boyfriend only becomes an immature fool when he's with his high school friends. Ava's expression shows displeasure as Chet continues speaking, and Nora tells Gabby she's too good for her friend. The bride-to-be chimes in to talk about potatoes and narrates a weird story about the farmers, which solicits an awkward silence from the group. To save Ava's face, Albert connects the out-of-topic story to the previous one and states that, as adults, they can fix the world. Nora jokingly says it's better when real adults step in, but Frank philosophically asks if adults just revise the past or are fixing things. With this profound remark, Albert proclaims that he's the one who invited the clever man while Nora stares at Frank. Chet declares that they're trapped in a cycle. To end this conversation, Ava instructs Deborah to quote about feminism, which is familiar to Nora. After a brief silence, Chet starts again, soliciting whines from the group. While cleaning up after dinner, Nora tells Frank that their group may be difficult to comprehend in the eyes of an outsider. Still, the clever man responds that it's Byronian, which means the fixer is also broken. Nora tries to make sense of it, and they exchange a few laughs. Meanwhile, Albert sternly examines the phonograph and rewinds it before chatting with the group. The tipsy squad spends the remaining time playing a guessing game, and they bluntly criticize Jim for consistently inserting an infamous dictator. Frank finally joins the game and Nora guesses it correctly, but she accidentally kicks her wine glass and the red liquid splatters on the pristine clean white carpet, frustrating Ava. Nora frantically wipes the carpet, and Chet comments that this is the typical college Nora. The group exchanges glances, and Jim tells them it's normal for his sister to be like this. Nora feels offended for being the subject of the silent discussion, so Ava calms her down by saying they're only concerned. Chet agrees, stressing the fact that their friend is a drunkard. The Bachelorette aggressively denies this claim and points out that her friends aren't perfect. Albert answers that they understand their imperfections but don't use them to mess up people's lives. To save her face, she criticizes everyone. Chet being a sociopath, Gabby being a mismatch to her boyfriend, Ava being obsessed with Albert and even giving off the vibes that their relationship is similar to family, Jim with his repulsive political view, and Frank being a stranger. Finally, she bluntly tells Albert about his obsession with wanting to prove himself and showing his interest in her despite having Ava around. Nora joyfully crosses her legs on the floor to mock her friends about being trash just like her. Albert can't take it any longer, so he curses and instructs Deborah to pause time. Everyone except the couple freezes, and the inventor angrily expresses his disappointment about his friends' attitudes. Ava tells him these people are dysfunctional, so it must be anticipated. He finally calms down and concludes they're like family, but upon hearing the word, the bride-to-be frustratedly corrects that they're friends. She complains about her being a great host, but the guests keep showing their immaturity in everything. Her boyfriend tells her that they can still fix this, but Ava reminds him of the rules he has set. Albert tirelessly points out that he wants to have a happy weekend with his closest friends and fiancé, so he promises that he'll only do it for the last time, and they will try everything to do things normally from then. Ava agrees, and the inventor commands Deborah to rewind 6 minutes. After a short beep, time is reversed, only affecting the guests. This time, Albert avoids the wine glass incident, and the night proceeds smoothly, filled with laughter and jokes. As they retire to bed, each pair exchange thoughts about finding faults toward the others. Nora wakes up in the middle of the night and heads to the kitchen to drink water. She discovers Frank singing a nursery rhyme to the host's pet dog, so she jokes with him. While she returns to her room, the clever man sees unexplainable fragments of the wine glass tragedy, which urges him to console Nora. The Bachelorette laughs it off and retires for the night. The following day, the gang wakes up exhausted, so the hosts proceed with their weekend plan to keep things normal. Afterward, Albert and Nora find time alone in the storage room, where they reminisce about their high school days through the old clothes and pictures. Amidst the fun, Albert confesses that being with Ava sometimes feels like they're siblings, so Nora reminds him that losing the spark at some point in the relationship is normal. As the inventor opens up about missing opportunities, he suddenly kisses his friend, and she responds to him. They separate, realizing what transpired between them, and Albert rewinds time to fix the situation. They return to the living room, where their friends remain unaware of the future groom's dreaded mistake. Jim, lounging on the sofa carelessly, straightens his leg, causing the table lamp to get pushed to the edge, so Ava commands Deborah to pause time hastily to avoid another tragedy. However, the guests notice the strange occurrence as the dog, unaffected by the AI magic, is in front of them, unlike seconds ago when it was across the room. The couple dismisses it by laughing while joking that the pet may have teleported, but the guests keep probing, and the hosts confess that Deborah can tweak time with some side effects. Chet instantly commands Deborah to rewind for 5 seconds, and he sees the magic. He repeats this multiple times until Ava throws something at his face. Ava and Albert firmly request them to avoid using AI. However, once the secret is out, everyone increasingly uses Deborah, even in trivial circumstances. While preparing dinner, Jim makes a condescending remark toward Gabby and all females. Feeling offended, the woman commands Deborah to pause multiple times to compose herself and avoid an argument. Unfortunately, Jim keeps insisting on his perspective, so Nora stabs his hand out of spite. Gabby watches satisfactorily before rewinding time to avoid the tragedy. The women kick him out of their group, so Jim accompanies the men outside. Nora's brother sees fragments of memories of his stabbed hand, which makes him distressed. He blabbers about his beliefs, and when his friends disagree, Jim attacks Chet and continuously provokes him. But with Albert's help, the punched man doesn't fight back. Afterward, Albert notices that the phonograph needle has moved again, so he adjusts it to keep track of time. He approaches Frank and Nora chatting pleasantly, and requests the woman to assist him. She complies, and once they've gathered the liquor bottles from the storage room, Albert kisses her. She repulsively pushes him away, and the inventor rewinds time. However, he kisses her again before tweaking time again. Nora notices something strange and asks Albert if he used Deborah because she feels weird. The inventor explains that it's called an emotional residue. Since the woman can't understand, he recalls when he confessed his love to Nora in high school, but she rejected him by saying something incredibly hurtful. He stresses that he can't remember what she said, but his heart still feels it. Nora finally understands and requests Albert to avoid using the time rewind with her, but the man angrily tells her that she has to stop charming him. As another argument erupts, Albert rewinds time and promises Nora he won't use it. After dinner, Ava proudly presents a beautiful cake she prepared, but Chet suddenly grabs it with bare hands to taste it. The host remarks that Gabby is too good for him, and this time, the girlfriend emotionally defends Chet by emphasizing how wonderful he is as a person if he's not with his group of dysfunctional friends. So she finally confesses how much she dislikes them. As she finishes her long speech, everyone laughs while Chet stares at Gabby lovingly. Frustrated, the girlfriend uses Deborah again, and this time, she is the one who grabs the cake to act like a fool. Soon, Frank probes Chet about his behavior, quoting every significant piece of information he's witnessed. However, Chet starts feeling the emotional residue and turns aggressive as he provokes Frank to join the game and not just be a bystander. The scholar stands his ground, and Chet attacks him. Ava, watching the scene as she prepares meals, uses Deborah multiple times to prevent Chet from ending Frank's life through strangulation until she finally succeeds by inviting Frank outside. As he feels the emotional residue, he explains that he chooses to be a bystander as a defense mechanism. He adds that he wants to participate but is afraid, so Ava sympathizes with him as she feels the same. She expresses her distress in seeing Albert and his group being so dysfunctional, making her feel like an outcast, so Frank comments that it's like a family. Ava instantly becomes upset, correcting him that it's not a family but only friends. The scholar gently asks her why she finds the word family a trigger. The bride-to-be has a panic attack, and Frank frantically offers an emergency plastic bag. Though Ava is reluctant at first, she accepts it and calms down. She confesses when she playfully took a DNA test that Albert was curious about, only to discover they're siblings. Frank comforts her as she cries and admits she's clueless about what to do since she genuinely loves Albert. She suddenly kisses him, and the bewildered scholar steps back. Ava apologizes but almost repeats the scene, so Frank keeps his distance while telling her it's okay. Upon returning home, Ava begins prepping for dinner. Chet comments that they just ate, while Frank states that they're in a loop of preparing food. The bride-to-be disgruntledly proclaims that food is all they have since there's no intimacy in the broken world. Gabby and Chet pick up trouble between Ava and Albert, so they get to work. Meanwhile, the host looks for her fiancé and catches Albert kissing the unwilling Nora multiple times as the inventor tweaks time. She marches to the living room and places a cylindrical device on the counter beside Deborah. Ava gets everyone's attention, including Nora and Albert who just arrived. The bride-to-be declares that her fiancé isn't the only genius in the family, so throughout her time working as his assistant, she also creates her version of Deborah, which she calls Blaine. Ava shows off her invention despite not having the time-tweaking ability while the two AIs throw insults at each other. Albert turns confused as Ava lets out her emotions while disclosing that Deborah's personality is based on Nora, and that her fiancé kissed the bachelorette in the storage room multiple times, utilizing the AI's ability to keep it a secret. Ava finally confesses that she and Albert are siblings, but Nora rewinds time to repeat the female host's storage room story. After confirming she heard it right, Nora confronts Albert, and the inventor commands Deborah to rewind to 5 minutes. However, the AI firmly declines, so the man has to explain. He points out that he's good, successful, and wealthy, but Nora keeps leading him on and denying it afterward, which frustrates him because he is now worthy of her. Nora argues that she isn't an object to be won because she's the main character. Albert laughs upon hearing this as he mocks how the woman always thinks of herself as the center of the world. However, he breaks her bubbles as he proclaims that Nora is a drunkard, a spinster, and a flop in the real world. Gabby fiercely comments about Albert's gaslighting. Ava follows by cursing at her brother, and Jim interjects by giving a discriminatory remark. Nora, Albert, and Ava yell at him to shut up, and Gabby takes the spotlight by emphasizing how terrible the group of friends is for turning against each other. Chet stands to clear his name and proclaim his love for Gabby, but as the couple hug, Jim gets irritated and begins blabbering about his beliefs, which triggers a chain of angry banters from everyone. Blaine suddenly sings a song, which escalates the terrible atmosphere. So Albert commands Deborah to rewind time, which it firmly declines as it plays the music it prefers. Frank tries to mediate, but Jim angrily turns on him, starting another argument cycle. Nora requests everyone to calm down and states that nobody needs Deborah. Unfortunately, the extreme emotional residue they're feeling explodes, and everyone screams their frustrations out. Jim shatters a vase and chaos erupts as everyone attacks each other. Ava stabs Albert, Nora does the same with Chet, and Gabby pounces on the drunkard. Ava yells at Frank to join, and despite being reluctant, he finally participates in the rumble. Hours later, Nora and Frank are the only two who awaken from the damage of the ruckus. The woman urges Frank to command Deborah, and the scholar asks it to rewind to 36 hours. However, the AI firmly refuses, saying that the results remain similar. Then Deborah asks if they can break the cycle, so Nora and Frank affirm it. The unconvinced AI shuts itself down, and the woman pushes Frank to convince Deborah. The scholar shares the machine's sentiment, but Nora pleads with him for her to have a happy ending as the main character. Frank gives in and promises Deborah that they'll change things. A beep echoes in the house, followed by the AI's agreement. After a long rewind, the weekend-long engagement party begins with Nora cutting the avocados on the couch. This time, the living room is not as pristine as before, as the pillow and the lampshade are slashed. Ava drops what she's doing to spend quality time with Nora, and the two women hug each other. The bachelorette takes her time hugging Nora, her eyes glistening with joy while wearing a wide smile, just like a main character should.
Subscribe to watch more videos like this, turn on notifications and leave a like to help the channel out. Thank you for watching.